Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at a crucial subject, something that impacts many skilled professionals and students hoping to make Australia their next home. You've asked us to unpack the recent shifts in Australia's migration landscape, particularly focusing on how policy changes are shaping opportunities for those looking to live and work in regional areas. Our mission today is to clarify what these updates truly mean for you, the aspiring migrant, and maybe highlight some of the most promising pathways available right now.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how the Australian government is strategically fine-tuning its approach. They're really emphasizing specific skill sets and, crucially, regional development. We'll explore the details of the skilled employer-sponsored regional visa, the subclass 494, and connecting to the bigger picture of Australia's evolving immigration strategy for 2025. It's a very deliberate evolution, I think, moving beyond just numbers to focusing more on sort of strategic impact.
Okay, let's unpack this evolving landscape then. We've certainly seen some, significant policy shifts over the past year, especially as we move into 2025. What's the overarching strategy the Australian government is pursuing here?
Well, if we look at the broader picture, Australia's permanent migration program for 2024-25 is set at 185,000 places. But what's really notable is the clear lean towards skilled migrants. They make up about 71-72% of that total. This really indicates a strategic pivot towards quality over sheer quantity, in who they're looking to welcome. It seems to be about ensuring each migrant contributes meaningfully to the nation's economic goals.
And that quality over quantity idea really seems to show up in the types of visas being prioritized, doesn't it? We're seeing a significant increase in employer-sponsored allocations, up to 44,000, while independent skilled places are actually decreasing quite sharply to 16,900. That's a pretty stark contrast. Does this signal an intentional, phasing out of those independent pathways?
That's probably not too strong a statement, actually. It feels like a fundamental shift. Opportunities are clearly, and I mean clearly, shifting towards employer-backed roles. This makes securing a strong, genuine job offer far more critical than, say, relying solely on points-based pathways that don't have that direct employer connection. For you, the applicant, it means that job market connection is now paramount. Really key.
It's not just about who gets in, but how much they're earning too, right? There's this new temporary skilled migration income threshold, or TSMIT, coming into effect. What does this mean for both employers and prospective migrants?
You're spot on. From July 2025, the TSMIT is being lifted to $76,515. And there's also a new highly skilled benchmark being introduced at $141,210. Now, this isn't just about higher wages. It fundamentally shifts the focus. It's moving from simply filling a role to attracting premium talent. It tells you, the applicant, that proving your value and your earning potential is now just as crucial as your skill set itself. This isn't just another hurdle. It's a strategic filter for those top-tier contributors who can make a significant economic impact.
Right. And what about international students? We know they're a huge part of Australia's draw, culturally, economically. How are these policy changes impacting them? It sounds like there's a tightening of rules there too.
For international students, yes, there's indeed a noticeable tightening. A new ministerial direction, known as Direction 111, began in 2024. It basically gives visa officers a mandate to scrutinize student applications much more closely, prioritizing educational providers with proven track records, better integrity. This means your application needs to be absolutely ironclad. You have to demonstrate genuine intent to study, not just, to gain a foothold in Australia. And the student visa charge is also reported to rise. It's expected to hit $82,000 from July 2025, up from $1,600 in 2024. Yeah. So this implies students need to come prepared with stronger evidence of funds, impeccable English proficiency, and crucially, genuine study plans that really align with their background and future aspirations.
So it really seems the government is simultaneously tightening entry requirements while also refining who they want to come in, aiming for a more selective, maybe higher contributing migrant pool. How has public opinion played a role in these changes? Because often policy shifts like this are a reflection of broader sentiment, particularly when it comes to migration.
Yeah, public sentiment has definitely cooled somewhat. Recent polling showed about 53% of Australians feeling the total migrant number is too high. And this is often linked directly to things like rising rents and housing shortages, which have been really significant concerns lately. However, it's important to note that support still remains strong for skilled migrants, and it's relatively steady for international students. So this mix of caution and selectivity helps explain the current policy settings, a desire to manage overall numbers and address public concerns, while still welcoming valuable talent and students who, contribute positively to the economy.
Okay, so with this tighter, more targeted landscape taking shape, let's zoom in on one specific pathway, one that remains a cornerstone of Australia's regional development strategy, the subclass 494 visa. Where does it fit in this more selective environment, and what exactly is it?
Right, the subclass 494 visa. It's a crucial tool designed by the government specifically to address skill shortages in regional areas. It's a 5-year provisional visa. It allows skilled foreign workers to live and work in designated regional parts of Australia. Essentially, it directs talent to where it's most needed outside those major metropolitan hubs like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. It's a very deliberate attempt to bolster growth outside of big capitals.
And a crucial point for everyone listening, what exactly counts as a regional area for this visa?
Wow.
Because sometimes that definition can be a bit broader than people expect, right? And it opens up quite a few possibilities.
That's an excellent question, and yeah, it's a common point of confusion. For this visa, regional areas include all parts of Australia except Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So, to give you some tangible examples, major cities like Adelaide, Perth, and Hobart are in fact considered regional for the purpose of the 494 visa. This really broadens the scope of where you could potentially live and work quite significantly.
So, what are the big benefits of this visa for applicants and their families? It's not just about getting a job, it's about building a life, isn't it? And that pathway to permanent residency is obviously key.
Absolutely. This visa offers permission to live, work, and study in regional Australia. That includes access to public health care through Medicare, which is huge. It allows children to attend local schools. And importantly, it provides full work and study rights for eligible family members. So your partner can work pretty much in any occupation and your children can study. But the most compelling advantage, without a doubt, is that clear pathway to permanent residency through the subclass 191 visa after just 3 years. That's a very direct route compared to some other options out there.
That pathway to PR after just 3 years is certainly a huge draw. But with all these changes and tighter scrutiny we've talked about, how challenging is it realistically to maintain the conditions for those 3 years to actually get to that point? What are the key eligibility criteria if you're looking to apply for the 494 as the primary applicant?
Good question. To maintain those conditions and successfully apply, you need to meet pretty stringent criteria right from the outset. As a primary applicant, you generally need to be under 45 years old. That's a hard limit. You need a positive skills assessment for an occupation on the regional occupation list, and that's a specific list tailored to regional needs, not just any skilled list. You must possess at least 3 years of relevant full-time work experience, and of course meet the English language, health, and character requirements. Crucially, employer sponsorship is mandatory. You can't apply for this visa on your own without a specific job offer and a sponsoring employer backing you.
And flipping that, for the employer looking to sponsor someone, what do they need to demonstrate to the Department of Home Affairs? It sounds like there's a lot of due diligence required on their end, too.
There absolutely is. Sponsoring employers must first be approved sponsors themselves, and they need to operate in a designated regional area. That's key. They have to offer a genuine full-time position for at least 5 years. They need to demonstrate that labor market testing was conducted, proving they couldn't find a suitable local worker for the role. And they must commit to paying a market competitive salary. So, at or above that new TSMIT we mentioned, for example. Additionally, before sponsoring, employers need approval from something called a Regional Certifying Body, or RCB. Think of the RCB as a local gatekeeper. They ensure the job offer isn't just on paper, but genuinely needed in that specific regional community. It prevents frivolous applications and helps protect local job markets.
Okay, let's talk about English language requirements for a moment, because this can often be a significant hurdle for many applicants. What exactly does competent English mean for the 494 visa, and what specific tests are accepted?
Right, competent English. To prove this, you generally need a score of 6 in each band of the IELTS test, or a minimum of 50 in each band of PT Academic. Those are the most common ones. But other approved tests include TOEFL IBT, Cambridge C1 Advanced, CELPIP General, MET, and OET, each with their own specific score requirements. A significant point to note is that applicants from the UK, USA, Canada, New Zealand, or the Republic of Ireland are often exempt if they hold a valid passport from one of those countries. But critically, and this catches people out, tests delivered completely online, sometimes called remote proctored or at-home tests, are not accepted for Australian visa purposes for this particular visa. You need to take it at an official test center.
That's a really crucial detail to keep in mind, especially with the rise of online testing options. What about the process itself? How long does it typically take from start to finish for a 494 visa? Knowing the timeline helps people plan their lives, doesn't it?
It certainly does. The overall process has several distinct stages, each with its own timeline. The skills assessment, which is usually your first step, can take anywhere from, say, 2 to 8 weeks, depending on your occupation and the assessing authority. Some are faster than others. The employer nomination usually takes about 1 to 3 months to be processed by the department. And then the visa grant itself, once you've submitted your application, averages around 6 to 10 months currently. But, these times can definitely vary. It depends on factors like how complete your submitted documents are and how quickly external checks like health and character assessments are completed. Patience is definitely a virtue in this process.
And the costs involved? They can be pretty significant. That's something aspiring migrants really need to factor into their financial planning. Could you give us a sense of the kind of investment required?
Indeed, the costs add up. Applicants should prepare for a range of fees. These include the skills assessment fees, English test fees, costs for police clearances from various countries, medical exams. Then the visa application charge itself is currently around AUD 4,640 for the main applicant. Plus, there are additional fees for any family members included in the application, spouse, kids. So for a family, the cost can quickly climb into the many thousands. It's a substantial investment, so budgeting carefully and preparing for these upfront expenses is absolutely essential. Don't underestimate it.
Given all these requirements, the stages, the costs, what are some common pitfalls that applicants should be highly aware of and actively try to avoid? What's maybe the number one mistake you see people make?
The number one mistake, in my experience, is probably submitting incomplete or inaccurate documents. Simple errors, missing forms. This can cause significant delays or even lead to an outright refusal, which is heartbreaking after all the effort. Another major pitfall is not confirming that your specific occupation is eligible on the specific regional occupation list. It's not a general skilled list, it's tailored. Also, crucially, once the visa is granted, things like changing employers without getting approval from the department first, or not consistently meeting the required income thresholds year after year, or simply failing to consistently live and work in the designated regional area. All these can significantly impact your visa status or even lead to cancellation down the track. Diligence and strict adherence to those visa conditions are absolutely key for the whole 3 years leading to PR.
We mentioned that pathway to permanent residency, which is such a powerful aspect of the 494 visa. How exactly does the subclass 494 lead to the subclass 191 permanent residence visa? And what are the specific criteria for that final step?
Okay, so after holding the subclass 494 visa for 3 years and consistently living and working in a designated regional area with your sponsoring employer or another approved employer if you've properly changed, you become eligible to apply for the subclass 191 visa. A key financial requirement for the 191 is to show earnings of at least $53,900 annually for those 3 consecutive years while on the 494.
That's a really critical distinction. We talked about the $76,515 TSMIT for the initial 494 sponsorship, but it's only $53,900 annually needed for the 191 permanent residency step. What does this gap tell us? It kind of suggests the government is setting a high bar for entry to ensure that quality talent, but then eases the financial burden slightly for permanent residency, focusing more on consistent contribution over maybe a sustained very high income. It's about establishing value up front, then proving stability, perhaps.
Precisely. It's important to distinguish between those 2 thresholds. They serve different purposes. For the subclass 191, another plus is that no new nomination from an employer is required, which definitely streamlines that part of the process. And notably, as you approach the PR stage, the 191 visa itself has no age limitation. This can be particularly beneficial for applicants who might have been close to the 45-year age limit when they initially applied for the 494, but would be over it by the time they're eligible for permanent residency 3 years later. It provides a degree of flexibility for those who've already proven their commitment to the region.
Right, that makes sense. Are there any significant alternatives to the 494 visa? Perhaps for those not wanting to be restricted to regional areas, or maybe those whose occupational profiles fit better elsewhere? What other avenues might be worth exploring for skilled workers?
Yes, definitely. The subclass 482 temporary skill shortage visa, often just called the TSS visa, is a key alternative. While it's similar in some aspects, it's employer-sponsored, requires skills, etc., the 482 is not restricted to regional areas. It offers much more flexibility in location across Australia. And generally, it might have slightly fewer eligibility requirements overall compared to the 494. The choice between the 494 and 482 often boils down to whether your occupation is on the relevant skilled occupation lists for either visa and where you want to live and work. The 494 can sometimes include a broader range of occupations, some of which might not be eligible for the 482. often related to those specific occupations that are in significant shortage in regional areas. So for example, if your profession is in high demand nationally, the 482 might be suitable. If it's more niche and specifically needed in regional towns, the 494 becomes more relevant, plus it has that clearer PR pathway. It's about matching your skills and intentions to the right pathway.
Okay, so let's try to briefly summarize the key takeaways from our deep dive today into Australia's shifting migration policies, and specifically the subclass 494 visa.
Okay. First, I'd say while overall public support for high migration numbers might have cooled, there's still strong backing for skilled migrants and international students. It indicates a targeted approach rather than, complete halt.
Second, Australia's 2024-25 policy is clearly emphasizing employer-sponsored roles and setting higher salary floors. That temporary skilled migration income threshold rising to $76,550 from July 2025 is a big one. It means proving your high value is more important than ever.
Third, for international students, you should anticipate that higher visa charge, likely $2,000 from July 2025, and definitely stricter integrity checks under Direction 111. This requires more robust applications demonstrating genuine study intent.
And finally, the subclass 494 visa. It remains a vital pathway, offering a clear route to permanent residency in regional Australia. But, and it's a big C, but it comes with that firm commitment to live and work in those designated areas for at least 3 years, demonstrating consistent contribution to the region. So this deep dive reveals that while Australia's migration landscape is certainly evolving and becoming perhaps more selective, clear opportunities definitely remain, especially for skilled workers who are willing to contribute to regional development. Understanding these changes is really your first step towards planning your future effectively.
Yeah, and this raises an important question looking forward. How will these ongoing policy adjustments continue to shape the distribution of skilled talent across Australia? And, what impact will that ultimately have on the growth and dynamism of regional communities in the years to come? Something for you to consider as you explore your own options and pathway.
All the best with your plans.
And we will lead again with another important matter again.